Hello, everybody. I am Dragos
Hello.
Axinte. I am the CEO of Novo Fogo, and I'm here in Seattle with our Seattle team. Um, would you introduce the rest of the team for me, Luke, please? Let's see who's here. We have Katie Rondal, aka Red, our marketing director, and then there's Jim Rondal, our West Coast manager. Then we have Emily, my wife and co-founding partner, and then the man with the hand on the camera is Luke McKinley himself. Hello, creative director and the digital mastermind here. And then in Brazil we have with us Torres. Torres is the managing director of the distillery and the founder of the distillery. Torres, let me see if I can put the video on you.
Okay.
Can everybody hear him?
Hi guys, how are you today?
There's Torres in Brazil, in the middle of the rainforest at the distillery. He's going to give us a tour very soon here. So what we're doing today, guys, is that we are starting a webinar series that is meant to educate folks about the world of cachaça and meant to show the peculiarities, the responsibilities, and the challenges of working and producing distilled spirits in the rainforest. And we're doing this with the help of 3 episodes, one about production, that's the one we're doing today, one about the very contested topic of cachaça aging in various kinds of woods. And the third one is about the human investment, the people behind the business. And we're doing it for the first time. We do these things live in person, but we've never done a webinar. So we're still working through the technical challenges here. And I want to ask Luke a question about this thing. Luke, I don't have to have this in my ear, right? Correct. Okay, good, because I'm hearing myself delayed, and that's a little distracting. So I'll put it down here. So the way we're going to do this, given the fact that I think on the line right now we have people who perhaps have never tasted cachaça or maybe tasted it once or twice, all the way to folks who are teaching classes about cachaça in Brazil and the United States. We're going to try to keep it pretty real, talk a bit about it. I will start by talking for 15, 20 minutes about what cachaça is and its history and geography and some of the weird things about it, and then introduce you to our place where Torres is moving around. And then I'll give it over to Torres, and he will give us a live tour of the distillery. And we are in the middle of production right now, so it'll be good for you guys to see the sort of things that happen there live, right? So I am going to share the screen with you. Hopefully you'll see my slides. It's really just a bunch of pictures so that it's not nothing too complicated. And I think that works, right? Okay, well, let's start. So this class is called Why Keshava Matters, and we think that we have kind of a tremendous opportunity here that is not necessarily visible in some other categories of spirits. Take any other category of spirit, for example, bourbon or vodka, or really anything that is made from some kind of grain or corn. There's a supply chain that is very long. It starts out with a farmer growing that product, let's say corn, somewhere in Iowa. Let's say his name is Bob. And Bob produces this corn in a very good way and perhaps runs a model business, and then sells that corn to a distributor who then sells it to a few large distilleries in Kentucky or Indiana. And those distilleries produce bourbon with it, a lot of it. And then they sell it to a bunch of brand owners who put it in their bottles with a label on those bottles. And then they in turn sell their product to distributors who sell it to bars and restaurants. And those bartenders there make cocktails with it. And then they hand over those cocktails to their guests. Well, there's a very low chance that that bartender actually knows where that corn came from, or that the name of the farmer is Bob, or that that farm business is a an exemplary organic distiller farming business with lots of role model business practices. That is okay, but we think it's a missed opportunity. In the Cachaça category, as well as many other Latin American spirit categories, and really any kind of category where the distiller produces the source product, that is an amazing opportunity for us to be able to tell that story from the origin, from the land, from what you see in that picture, all the way to that cocktail on the bar. And as a result, we do think that Cachaça matters, because Cachaça has a tremendous opportunity to become a role model category that sets examples along the way from that origin all the way to that destination by trying to do everything just right. And it really starts with people like Oséias. We call him Captain Oséias. Captain Oséias has been with Torres since Torres built a distillery in 2003, 2004, has worked in the fields, has worked inside the business itself, and he has been our field team supervisor for a number of years now. We call him Captain Oséias because he can do anything he wants. He can jump on a tractor and cross the tractor over the river and go and harvest sugarcane on an island, and he can repair that tractor if it breaks down, and he can lay cement and do anything he wants, and it really becomes his business as much as anybody else's business, right? And I think that today you'll get to know some of these people, and then in episode 3 you'll get to know them a lot and perhaps talk to them a little bit more. But to us, this is really the beginning. It starts here, and it starts with a product that grows out of the earth, literally. So Cachaça is a category of distilled spirits that is made only in Brazil, and it's made from freshly pressed sugarcane juice. The concept is basically that we harvest the sugarcane stalks, we press them to extract juice, and we ferment that juice into wine and distill that wine into a distilled spirit. It's pretty simple. But Cachaça can all be made in Brazil. And there are some rules, some technical rules about it that are dictated by the Brazilian government. The recipe of Cachaça is dictated by the Brazilian government. It pretty much says you can only use sugarcane, nothing else. And the thing that most people don't know about this is that it's a very large category. As you see here on the screen, it's in the top 5 in the world. And a lot of it, I have to admit, is by virtue of how much Brazilians drink. But nonetheless, it's really growing outside of Brazil as well. It's growing in North America, in the US and Canada. It's growing in Western Europe, and now it's starting to make its presence elsewhere around the world as well. So Cachaça has its own identity. It is very Brazilian, although it's part of the pillars of the sugarcane spirit family. There are very distinctive things about it that make it uniquely Brazilian. So as you look at this table, which is the only chart I'll show you today, I promise, you'll see 3 categories: rum, rum agricole from Martinique, and Cachaça from Brazil. The latter 2, rum agricole and Cachaça, are very similar. They're really primary cousins, as we call them. They are made from freshly pressed sugarcane juice, and that means that they're very raw, very vegetal, very much directed by their terroir, representative of what the environment they come from is. On the other hand, rum is made from the byproduct of cooking the sugar juice into the white crystals we know as sugar, and that byproduct is called molasses. So rum is most of the time made from molasses, not always, sometimes made from fermented sugarcane juice as well, but it tastes like molasses because it's made from molasses, whereas rum agricole and Cachaça taste like sugarcane in the place that they come from. There are also some technical differences, of course. A lot of them have to do with proof. But for Cachaça, the only thing you need to know is that the only requirement is that by Brazilian government direction is that it must be bottled between 38% and 48% alcohol. And typically it tends to run low. Cachaça is a low proof spirit. Rum agricole is a high proof spirit. Rum is all over the place. And in the United States, because Cachaça is its own category and also a subcategory of rum, it has to obey to 2 different sets of rules. The rum rule is that it must be bottled at a minimum of 40%. So in reality, once you intersect the 2, Cachaça in the US must be bottled between 40 and 48%. I wanted to tell you that although you can't talk to us right now, you can ask questions in the Facebook feed, and our team is going to answer them if they can. If they can't, They will pass them on to me on some little index card that I very poorly cut myself last night. They will write them out, and they will give them to me at the end, and then Torres and I can answer them. And if we can't answer them now, if we run out of time, we'll answer them to you directly later in a private discussion. So please don't hesitate to ask questions there. Cachaça is a very, very old category. While rum has been around for about 400 years, Cachaça has been around for 500 years, 100 years longer than rum itself. And during this time, a number of different traditions have developed. Obviously, something that survives 500 years is probably going to survive longer, and it's got a very strong backbone. And one of the greatest things about the category is that the traditional ways are still employed today by a lot of distilleries that operate in small communities, such as this one. This is Engenho da Serra in our own town. And the man in the picture is a fellow we respect very much. His name is Carlos Niata. We call him Seu Carlinhos. And up until a few months ago, he was the oldest living distiller of Cachaça in Morretes, our town. Unfortunately, he passed away a few months ago. But he did enough to impress us and inspire us. And one of our Brazilian labels is dedicated to him. It's called Tradition because of the traditions that he has created in our own town. And you can see here in the picture, this is his distillery. This is where he produced Cachaça for a very long time. And he did so without electricity. So let me show you inside. This is the wheel that crushes the sugarcane. And this wheel is powered by water. Literally, he carved steep drop-offs in the land to get water to come down at the high velocity and be strong enough to move this gigantic wheel, which then will crush the sugarcane and create sugar juice that goes on in the process. And there's no electricity necessary because really nothing requires electricity, and you don't even need the light from electricity because the whole side of the building is left open, so you can have natural daylight come in and orient the process there itself. This distillery is no longer active as of about 3 years ago, but it operated for decades. And there are many examples of that sort, even in our town, distilleries that have been around for a very long time. So with something that is as old as Cachaça, you can imagine that a lot has been tried, a lot has been done. The diversity, the breadth, the depth, all of these are very wide. And you can see that diversity just by looking at our own product line. Just our own brand, our own company produces so many different kinds of Cachaça that at any point in time we have at least 6 and probably a bunch of other single barrel expressions that will be different from each other in age and flavor and nose and so on. You can see one clear Cachaça here. This is the unaged one. It's resting in stainless steel tanks. And all the other ones are aged in some fashion, reflective of a tradition of aging Cachaça. In Brazil, about 90% of Cachaças are aged in wood barrels, and somewhere between 60 and 70%, in fact, are aged in oak barrels, most of them American oak, and then some French oak as well. That will be the main topic for our second episode of the webinar about barrel aging. So Cachaça, it really matters because Brazil matters today, and Brazil has had this phenomenal journey along the last 100 years, where even along the last 20 years, along the last 5 years, really, where it went from what some would call a third world country to becoming a world superpower in a matter of a very short amount of time. Today, it's impossible to ignore Brazil. You can't ignore Brazil. Brazil is part of everyday life at so many levels. It's a large country. It's a diverse country. It's a melting pot like the United States. There's a lot of tradition. There's a lot of agriculture. Obviously, it's one of the most resourceful, natural resourceful countries in the world. It is the lungs of the planet because of the rainforest that it hosts. And it's clearly a leader in South America, a leader in the world. But I think the thing that resonates with most people the most is that it's a country of people who love fun and love living, love everyday life. It's something that is very aspirational to all of us up here, especially in North America and Western Europe, where we live very stressful lives. The idea that you can live in the moment, you can live in today, is a very, very powerful lesson. So Brazil is a cultural leader and a home for those who love love. So here's the map of Brazil, also the map of Cachaça. You can see a lot of green, but in reality, it's all green. There's green of some sort everywhere. Obviously, the top part up here is the Amazon forest, and that's the Amazon River, which, by the way, goes right along the equator. That's where that is. This little kidney bean-shaped thing here is the Pantanal. It's a swamp the size of Switzerland. And the one thing that interests me the most is this sliver of green on the coast right here. That's called Mata Atlântica or Floresta Atlântica. It's the Atlantic rainforest. And the Atlantic rainforest is really goes from the north to the south of Brazil. And there's something significant about this. The Amazon over the years lost 20% of its mass. The Atlantic rainforest over the years lost 93% of its mass. That is almost all of it. It used to go up all the way into here. But this is where the big cities have developed, right here on the coast. This is where the population centers are. This is where there's agriculture, there's technology, there are buildings being built out of wood. So very quickly, this has dwindled to only 7%. In the last 20 years, however, there's been a reversal of this trend. And that has to do with just kind of a new mentality of protectionism, of sustainability, of preservation that is especially clear here in the South. And we are lucky to be part of the largest protected patch of Atlantic rainforest in all of Brazil. One of the things that I want to tell you is that Brazil really has a lot of land that has not been cultivated, that could be cultivated, that is very fertile. And we don't have to cut trees down there in order to create more agriculture. In fact, I read an article that said that the size of the available land for cultivation in Brazil without cutting a single tree down is a certain amount. And I looked at the United States and I started to add state by state, and I found out that that land equates to the entire Western United States, from the Rockies to the coast. All of that, imagine a farm the size of the Western United States. Brazil could feed the world for 100 years if it makes the right decision. So our mentality is to try to show that you can make the right decisions and still win in business, and perhaps inspire others to take that path as well. As far as cachaça goes, it's really produced everywhere in Brazil. But we know more about the cachaças in the South because there's more technology there. The agricultural practices are more advanced. There are more roads. Literally, it's just easier to do business in the South. Up here in the tropics by the equator, it's so darn hot. It's very hard to do anything. There are not very many roads. The Amazon is obviously protected, impenetrable, and also subject to a lot of crime. It's very hard to really do very much up here. So down here is where the new phase in cachaça's life has developed, from the states of Minas Gerais to Rio de Janeiro, São Paulo, Paraná, Santa Catarina, and Rio Grande do Sul. We are right here in Paraná. That's where Torres is standing, very close to the coast. And there's a lot of productivity here. Generally speaking, cachaça used to be produced further north. Minas Gerais is just a stronghold of cachaças. At one point, Minas Gerais alone had something like 40,000 distillers operating. That's one state. Not too many of those were paying taxes, therefore they were sort of illicit. They could only sell themselves at their own distilleries to their own community. They couldn't sell in a retail store. They couldn't distribute. They couldn't export. But there's still, even so, there are probably 3,000 brands that are legally distributed in Brazil. And if you go on a tour of cachaça, you probably have to start up here in Salinas, in the north of Minas Gerais, and start going south, although I wouldn't discourage you from going north either. So I'd like to bring you down a little bit, immerse you into our world in Mojetes, and try to give you the foundation of why we do business the way that we do. This is a real road in Mojetes called Caminho do Itupava. It's a historic road, but it's a road you can drive on, you can walk on, you can run on, do whatever you like. And you can see there are residences here. It's very lush with vegetation. There are trees inside of trees and plants up in trees and so on. But look, there's a gate to a house. There's a house right here. You might be able to see a sign. It's a street sign right here. That's because there is traffic on this road. But if you look really carefully, you see there's a house back here too. You see that? There's something yellow behind this tree. The reason why I'm showing you this is because I want to point out that people in our town Mojetes live in the middle of the rainforest. They are one with the rainforest. It's impossible to wake up in the morning in the middle of this and say, you know, I feel like hacking some trees and killing some animals today. You can't do that. It's not part of the mentality of somebody who lives in the jungle. So that dictates the decisions that we make in our business. And to bring it down a little bit further, I'm going to play for you a short little video that Luke shot one morning at the distillery before folks showed up for work. And I think, Luke, you were on the roof for most of it, right? Yeah. So an immersion into the sights and sounds of our distillery in the morning. Well, this is the distillery. Let me adjust the volume here. Did you guys hear the sounds, the birds? I hope you did. It's pretty low. But this is the building that you saw in the final shot there. This is where the magic happens, and this building makes me think of a song by Depeche Mode from 1986 from the Black Celebration album. It's called "This Is the House," and the song goes, "This is the house where it all happens." And you know, this is the house where it happens here. This is the song is a love song, and Novo Fogo is a love song. It's pretty hard to come into this building after being outside, seeing all this thing and saying, I'm going to do the right thing. I'm going to create a business that is going to be very difficult, but it's the right thing to do, and we will persist, and we will eventually show that it can be done, and perhaps we'll change the world a little bit. And we do this because our first love are people, and our first love is the land. And we bring that together by realizing we are farmers first. So just as you saw Captain Oseas at the beginning, this is Italo Abreu. He's a farmer. He's one of us. We're all farmers. They can cut cane better than the team here in Seattle can. I can promise you that. But we are in it together, and we have to recognize that we depend on this land, and we want to make sure that we take good care of it, because if we stop taking care of it, it stops taking care of us. So before I hand this over to Torres, I want to remind you that in life there is a way to do anything. There are multiple ways to do anything, and when it comes to agriculture, there are lots of corners that could be cut. And here's a great example. These are different ways to harvest sugarcane. The ones on the left, the folks on the left, decided to burn the field to let the leaves fall off, because the leaves are not necessary. The leaves really keep the workers from advancing fast into the field. And so they decided to burn them off and make it easier for their team, and perhaps even for tractors to come in and take these sugarcane plants down. So is that the right thing to do? Well, I guess they decided that it is for themselves, because they have to harvest so much sugarcane so fast to make a very large quantity of cachaça that they have to utilize this resource. But what happens with the 2-mile-long clouds of smoke in the sky? What happens to the fact that the sugarcane has been burned? And the cachaça will now taste like burnt sugar. That's what it becomes. So our choice is not that at all. Our choice is to go in with machetes by hand, and here's the team harvesting on their own. Oseas and Sandro there in the picture, and they're going in and they're cutting the plant, and then we're pressing them on an immediate basis. And there's no question about the fact that this is right. And this is a great reminder of why we do it too. This is one of the residents of our town. So I like to take this over to Toys now, but I want to give you a couple of words of warning. Toys is operating on a phone connection. He's going to take his phone around the distillery, and he's going to go to different ends of it, but he has a very limited range of how far he can go. He could drop the signal anytime because he is in the jungle. The second thing is that we were told just a few days ago that the power will be out tomorrow at the distillery because, and in that whole area, because the power company is working on some repairs. So that means that we are not harvesting sugarcane today because we need to be able to press the sugarcane very quickly after we cut it, otherwise it goes bad. And then we do use electricity in the presser of the cane. So you will not be able to see the teams cutting the cane today or pressing the cane, but he will show you everything else. So Toys, I am going to switch the video on to you now, and perhaps you can show us around. Is that cool?
Yes, it's okay, Dragos.
Sounds good. Let me put you on the screen. And now you should be able to see Mr. Fulgencio Torres Viruel, aka Torres. It's simpler.
Okay. Okay.
How is the weather today, Torres?
Dragos.
You said it's pretty nice today, yeah? We can see a lot of blue skies.
Yeah, wow, it's an amazing day here. Very sunny. It's a warm day, and everything's perfect here with the weather today. Well, I'll try to give you a short tour about everything we do here. You can interrupt me anytime you want to ask Dragos. Dragos will transmit to me all the doubts. But I want to start with the very big.
So can you show us the mountain?
Yep.
There you go, guys. You saw this view in the very first slide in the opening scene. You saw mountain and rainforest blanketing it, and sugarcane right at the base, right behind our building on our property. This is what it looks like in real life. The sun is so bright that perhaps the lights are not just right. And right there is where there was sugarcane up until recently, but we harvested that. So no sugarcane there. But this is where the process starts.
Yeah, exactly. Well, every sugarcane here was already cutted. So you see here, you can see that they are born again. It means after we plant the first time, we can harvest in the next 5 years without, there is no need to renew the sugarcane field. They grow it again and again for 5 years. This is the second time we are harvesting this sugarcane here. So it's growing, and in May or June next year, they will be ready to be harvested again. Dragos mentioned that today we are not cutting because we will not have electricity tomorrow. But this morning, we already extracted the juice from sugarcane here on the press machine. And right now, we are distilling the sugarcane that we pressed yesterday. I'll show you the process later on. As we are an organic producer, it's important to mention to you that after we extracted the juice, what we have is the sugarcane bagasse. And the sugarcane bagasse, we burn part in our boiler to produce the steam necessary for distillation, and the other part is mixed with another waste we have here, that is vinhoto, and both combined become a fertilizer that goes back to the field. The sugarcane that we burn, the bagasse of sugarcane that we burn, we keep it here in order to be dry. And here you can see Italo. Well, you saw Italo.
Italo.
You saw a picture of Italo before.
He is a farmer first.
He show you, well, look, the boiler inside. And here is the sugarcane bagasse we use to produce the steam. He will feed the boiler so you can follow. The boiler must be dry, so that's the reason, because we keep it for some days before we put it in the boiler.
So Toes, let me repeat something for everybody. the sugar cane is pressed, the juice is extracted, and then this is the leftover product. We are a zero waste distillery, so that means that we don't throw anything away. We reuse every byproduct until it's fully consumed. So when we do that, this is our first byproduct, is the kind of the spent sugarcane stalks. We let them dry, and then they become perfect fuel. They are so dry, they burn, and they will be completely consumed. If they are wet because it's rained and we did not have a supply of bagasse from before, then we may use some kind of wood that fell on the property, because obviously all trees are protected on the property and everywhere else. There are trees that fall because the rainforest, right? And when trees fall, start to rot, and we bring them in and we dry them up and we use that as wood as well. So occasionally you may see a piece of wood there. That's what it is. It's fallen wood. And one of the greatest things in this community is that when we start a harvest, the neighbors know that we may need fuel for the boiler, so they may bring their own woods to us if it's fallen on their property. They're cleaning the properties that way, and they bring it over to us. It's a great recycling of fallen natural resources. Thank you, Torres.
Yeah, you're right. You're right, Dragos. Most part of this wood we have here are offered to us by our neighbors, because the fallen trees they have from time to time, they keep it, and we use it here on our boiler when we need it. So you saw Italo, you know him, and now we are going to leave Italo here, and we are going to go to the next step. Okay? Diga tchau, Italo.
Bye.
Valeu.
Okay, obrigado, Italo. Okay, guys, so let's go ahead and let's go to the another step. Let's see what happened to the juice we extracted here on this station. The juice goes inside the building, and we need to prepare it before it goes to fermentation area.
Torres, can you stop there for a second?
Yes.
Can you turn and show the field to your right? Yeah, show the field over there.
Okay.
So there's a road that goes to the distillery. The gate to the property is in front, and that's where there used to be sugarcane until recently. But on the other side of the trees, guys, is a creek. Between the gate and the building, there is this creek. And Natalie just asked the question about what is the water source. The water source is that creek that is on our property. Obviously, it's filtered, but it's our own water because we're self-sufficient that way. Thank you, Torres.
Okay. Well, let's go inside. We are going to see the juice that was extracted this morning. Well, right now, it's a coffee break here for the employees. But some are still working here. I'll show you later. Well, the sugarcane pressed produces the juice, and you have here the juice recently obtained from the sugarcane, the one that we pressed this morning. So these tanks are full here. Each one has 1,200 liters of capacity. And what we do here is to put the right amount of sugar, to set the right amount of sugar on the juice before we start fermentation. And normally we have to add fresh water to have around 15% at the end of total sugar content. This is the ideal to allow that the fermentation continues for around the 24 hours. Okay. After we do that with these hoses you see here, we send the juice by gravity to this area, and here you see Larissa. Larissa is working. She's feeding the tanks, and she's feeding the tanks for fermentation. And at the bottom of the tanks, what you have is the yeast, the wild yeast we have here. It's part of the plants, and we just concentrated it. Look, we feed it very slow in order to allow the yeast to start eating, let's say, the sugar and transforming in our cachaça. So it's being feeded right now, and tomorrow morning it will be ready, and it will be distilled tomorrow morning. And here is Larissa. Oi, Larissa, diga oi para todo mundo. Oh, Larissa lives here. She's our neighbor. Você mora muito perto aqui, né, Larissa? Okay, okay. And what she's doing is just agitating to homogenize the yeast with the juice of sugarcane to ease the process of fermentation. Also,
so this I'd like to add a couple things too about the yeast. You mentioned that it's wild yeast, so let's explain that.
Okay. Well, the wild yeast, what we do is we just collect the yeast that is present on the leaves of sugarcane. We do that before we start the season, just giving to the yeast the right content of food and also oxygen. When we give oxygen to the yeast with the right amount of food, it starts to multiply. And after this multiplication, they grow a lot. And look, all these tanks, all this area I'm showing here, from this part up to this part is yeast. The wild yeast is here. And the juice is over that area, that volume. So all the yeast starts to eat the sugar and transform it in cachaça. Okay?
So it's 1 second. I want to just tell everybody who's joining us on Facebook Live what's happening. We're giving a webinar, guys, on Cachaça production today. It's part of our 3-part series called Why Keshava Matters. And today is the episode where farmers first. So we talked a little bit about what cachaça is, where it comes from, its history and geography. And now Torres, who built the distillery, is giving a live tour of the actual production process. And we have so far looked at the sugarcane field. We have looked at the bagasse, the leftover dry sugarcane that fuels the boiler that makes steam for the distillation, as we'll see in a second. And he's now down to the fermentation process. So that sugarcane juice that was squeezed from the plant is fermented with the help of wild yeast, and it becomes wine. So I'm going to go back to Torres's video, and I'll add a couple of things about the yeast. It's wild because we essentially harvested, we cultivated from our own sugarcane. Yeast is a bacteria. It's a bacteria that starts a chemical reaction that changes sugar into alcohol. And the concept is that really anything organic in nature could possibly become that bacteria that will start this chemical reaction, right? And we think that we don't want to bring in another product from outside of our world, with a bag of yeast from some chemical company in Atlanta. No, we have yeast near us. We have yeast in the sugarcane plant. So we basically cultivate these cells of yeast from the cane itself. It takes us a couple of weeks to get enough yeast to last us for entire harvesting season. And that's what Torres is talking about. It goes to the bottom of these tanks, and it sits there for the few months that harvest season occurs. And Jose asked earlier, how often do we harvest sugarcane? Well, we harvest it once a year, but it takes many months to harvest it all. So during that time, we keep cutting sugarcane, keep pressing the sugarcane, keep fermenting the juice into a wine using this yeast. So this yeast has to last long enough for the entire multi-month season of production. So Torres, can you also show us the temperature band? And I'd like to explain what that is.
Yes. Well, the most important part of the process is the fermentation. If something goes wrong during fermentation, certainly what we are going to have on the distillation will be a bad product. And one of the important issues here are the control of temperature. You see here on our tanks, we have the possibility to increase or to decrease the temperature inside the tanks. Here on this part, there is a possibility to circulate the fresh water to refrigerate the tank if the temperature is too high. Too high means here something around 32, 33, 34 degrees. That is too much. With this temperature, the yeast becomes stressed and the fermentation goes bad. but if necessary on the cold days, also we can use steam to increase the temperature up to 26, 27 degrees. So the ideal is to have the temperature on this reaction that is happening here between 27, 28, and up to 32, maximum 32 degrees. That
means the 80s. We start in the low 80s and we go to the high 80s. But it's a very narrow range of temperature that works well enough to start the fermentation. Minimum temperature is required to start fermentation. Max temperature we don't want to exceed because it spoils the product.
Okay.
Anytime high acid forms, and acid becomes a burning sensation on the throat when you're drinking the cachaça. It's just in simple terms. Okay, Torres, let's go to distillation.
Okay, I just want to show you we add more 2 tanks here that you see. It's a buffer. After we finished, we transfer the wine to the buffer tanks, and from these buffer tanks we feed by gravity the pot still. I'm going to take you up to the pot still.
So the result of fermentation is that we have a wine.
Because we have a wind.
Oh, that's
to avoid any problem. Okay, well, this is the area.
It's 7 or 8% alcohol, and now we have to purify it and increase its proof. So that's what distillation does.
Okay, now we are here in the distillation area. As you see, we have 3 parts on distillation area, and there you see on the left Bruna, on the right Mayara. Mayara is operating the pot still today, and Bruna is our technical manager here. I'm going to go closer so you can have more details about what we are doing here today. Right now, we are distillating, and well, here you see, how are you, Bruna? Tudo bem?
I'm fine.
Oi, Mayara, tudo bem?
Hi, Mayara.
Dragos está dizendo oi.
Hello.
Ok. O que você está fazendo, Bruna, agora?
Esse é o corte para calda, né?
Okay. Well, Bruna is taking the decision if it's time to cut for what we call the tail or to keep it in the heart. Você pode falar um pouquinho mais sobre isso, Bruna?
Essa é a parcela, eu vou falar em português, então você me permite.
Ok.
Essa é a parcela que a gente retira do processo e guarda para ser redestilado numa segunda vez.
As you see here, we have Novo Fogo in Porto Morretes. Well, okay.
Everybody.
Oh, obrigado, Bruna. Well, Bruna was explaining to us what she was doing, but let me explain you very fast. Well, the first part you see here is the cooler, is the preheater, sorry. The preheater is where the wine of sugarcane comes first. After, we transfer it to the pot still that you see here. Well, the temperature here is higher. Right now is 102 degrees Celsius. Above also you have around 100 degrees. And we are almost finishing the second distillation of the day. We put here 1,200 liters of wine of sugarcane, and what we get depends on what the content of sugarcane we had, and also the quality of sugarcane. Normally, what we have is 120, 130 liters of cachaça at the end. Now, right now, Bruna is measuring to check the volume, to see how much of the heart we collected this time.
24 litros de calda.
Okay, well, the tail is 24 liters. E a quantidade de coração que saiu dessa vez, Bruna, quanto deu?
Saiu em 117 litros.
117 liters of heart of cachaça on the second distillation, right, Mayara?
Só que a gente cortou um pouquinho mais hoje para esperar você descer para a gente mostrar que demora meia hora entre uma e outra.
Okay, okay.
Então,
Well, she's speaking Portuguese, but Luke can translate to you later on, right, Luke?
He can, yeah. Luke can hear you, but he can talk to you, Torres. But I want to stop for a second, and because we have some folks with us on Facebook Live and also on the webinar side that don't know much about distillation, I want to clarify this a little bit. Remember, we got to this room with a wine that was 7 to 8% alcohol, and we said we want to purify it and increase the proof. So the way we do this is by heating it up. There's the preheating bowl, then there's the actual still itself. That heats up the whole volume and it starts to evaporate. It evaporates in parts. First, the alcohol part of it evaporates because alcohol has the lowest vaporization temperature. So it will literally rise and move away in some of those pipes. Then we call that the head. That's really high proof. Just will give you a massive headache if you try to drink that when it recondenses. The next part is the heart. It's the best part. It's got the right mix of flavors and everything. And the last part is the tail that Bruna is talking about. And the tail is basically the gunky stuff. It's the particles that will finally rise, but it doesn't taste very good. It has a low proof and it tastes pretty poor. So as the vapor rises, it rises in these parts. And now our job is to recollect the vapor and reduce its temperature so that it recondenses back into liquid. And that's what happens in the third bowl, the condenser or the chiller, where the vapor becomes liquid again. And when it becomes liquid, we separate those parts. We say head, heart, and tail. And Torres, can you point go back to that tank? What they're doing over there, they're trying to take precise measurements of when do we go from head to heart, when do we go from heart to tail, based on alcohol proof itself. So they're measuring the alcohol content, and we're seeking hearts to be somewhere between 48 and 54% usually, but Torres said today that the heart is a little bit higher. So we separate those things. The heart is what we continue with. The head and the tail are byproducts to us. We don't throw them away, but we use them as fuel for the vehicle, for the tractors, as cleaning agent, as fire starter, all sorts of things that will eventually consume the head and the tail. Thank you, Torres. So now we have the heart. And Torres, can we go on down the building to the inox tank? Torres, we lost your audio. You're muted now.
Yes. Yes. Now we are in the other room. Here we have the big tanks where we store the silver cachaça, the fresh obtained cachaça. We have 3 tanks. Each one has a 35,000 liters of capacity. Let me show you. Well, these are some tanks, 1,000 liter tanks capacity that we are going to send you, Dragos. This is to produce the Novo Fogo caipirinha. We are going to ship it in 2 weeks to you, okay? And also here you see some barrels, some wood barrels we use to age our Novo Fogo cachaça. We have 3 areas where we aged cachaça. This area is where we put the cachaça that will stay for a short time in the barrels. When I mean short time, I mean at least 1 year. This is the minimum aging time we use here. Most part of the barrels we have are from American oak, but also we have some barrels produced with Brazilian woods. I'll show you later. Dragos, I think I'm going to the second adega. Are you going to make any comments?
Yeah, so
is okay?
I will talk a little bit. The heart goes to two different products. To make the silver cachaça, we put in those stainless steel tanks, otherwise called inox. And stainless steel is chemically inert. It doesn't change the color or the flavor of the spirit itself. But we keep the cachaça in there for about a year so that it homogenizes. It just rests. It becomes smooth. It's like taking a steak off the grill. You don't want to cut into it right away. You want to let the juices spread out, right? So it will taste better. The longer it sits, the smoother it gets. Silver cachaça is usually difficult to drink because it's too rough, but ours is delightful, and you can drink it as a shot next to a beer or in any way that you like. But the bulk of our cachaça actually goes to barrel, and that is according to Brazilian tradition and according to our customs, according to the palate of our community around us. We put most of our cachaça in barrels. So this is we're kind of our building is being taken over by barrels now as we've recently increased production, and we have barrels everywhere. So let's go to the to one of the adegas. We have a few different rooms with barrels, guys, but they are kind of half on the ground and their signal is not very strong. So Torres is only going to go to one of them and only really stand in the doorway. Otherwise, if he walks in, he'll lose his connection. He won't be able to see anything. So you see, these are kind of below the building. The idea is to preserve the temperature a little bit more. We keep it a little cooler in there. No sunlight enters the rooms, and we don't really go in there very often. We open the door so that he'd have easy access for this call, but otherwise they stay closed and kind of sealed. So here are some of the barrels. So I'll give it back to you.
Okay. Well, these here.
Step back away. The signal is not good. Come back outside. There you go. Thank you.
Okay. This area is where we put the cachaça for long time to be aged. We can keep it for 5 years to 6 years to 7 years on those barrels. And here we have some barrels made with Brazilian woods, like amburana or castanheira, that produces the colibri cachaça and the graciosa cachaça, okay? The total, we have around 400 barrels where we produce the Novo Fogo cachaça that you have in United States. We have another area. I don't know if I can go there with the sino.
Yeah, we tested that already. Worked very well.
Okay, just to try to be closer. So this is also another area with more barrels.
All barrels. Don't go
here.
inside.
So, yes, I don't go. Well, this is the area that I can go without losing the signal. Just to show you that in the bottom part of the property here, also you see the sugarcane is growing. This is the one that we cut it first this year. Now it's
like May?
Sorry?
Did you cut it in May?
Yes, it was May, and now it has around almost 1 meter high right now. It will be ready again on May.
Wow, that's amazing. And Torres, I have a couple of questions that I like to address while you're still out there. Somebody asked to rotate, that was Scott. He asked if we rotate crops and how do we maintain the health of the land. And
yes, it's important. It's important to rotate the lands. We have on a map all the small portion we use to grow the sugarcane. And we don't have only this property. We have another property that is 3 kilometers far from here. Here we have 12 hectares. There we have 14 hectares. And not all this land is growing sugarcane on the same time. We keep some areas empty for 1 year to give time for the ground to restore itself. But anyway, here in Morretes, because the weather is humid and hot, the ground regenerates itself very fast. Things happens very fast here. If you leave the sugarcane bagasse for 1 year 1 month during the summer, it's enough to be used as a fertilizer. If we were, let's say, in a cold weather, it can take 1 year. Here is 1 month because of the humidity, the rich life of the soil, and the amount of rain we have each year. So everything goes fast here because of that. But anyway, it's important to rotate the lands, and we do that.
And Scott, we rotate the land. We plant on different lands, and we have gaps, and we allow the lands to aerate for 1 year. But we don't use other crops. We don't plant corn or beans or other things because we don't really know what to do with those. And also because we don't feel that we need those. We just make sure that the land has enough time to recover. And a similar question came from Natalie related to the when the cane is ready. When we know that the cane is ready, and the answer is twofold. There's really a visual trigger that if we start to see flowers at the top of the cane, that means that, well, we waited too long and the sugar content is reducing. But really, we measure the sugar content, and we have a specific target of when we want to cut it, and we have to cut it pretty fast. Otherwise, the sugar content starts to go back down because the sugar is consumed, almost like the body consumes glucose.
Yeah, what we do to be sure that the sugar cane is mature is we have an equipment, and we measure the content of sugar at the bottom of the plant and on the top of the plant. And if the difference it's less than 10%, it means that the sugar cane is mature. And normally the content is around right now is 19% of sugar. But the difference between the top and the bottom tell us if the sugar cane is mature or not.
So guys, we're coming close to the end of the 1 hour. We want to respect time. So I will say this. I'm sorry that you didn't get to witness sugarcane being cut by our team, but such is the unpredictability of working in the rainforest. You know, that's kind of what happens. So we appreciate your patience on that. And Torres, I like to go back and just show a couple of more slides here for the closing and what happens next. But thank you for giving the tour. The signal worked pretty well, and I'm glad you had a dry day.
Okay, thank you, guys. See you.
Okay, don't
bye.
Stay on if you don't mind.
Okay.
So, guys, I hope you enjoy this. You know, every day is very different at our distillery, and the only way to not lose yourself is to just be yourself. Really, it's the easiest way to make decisions is to recognize that the only thing we have is ourselves, our place, our community, our people, our specific land situation, our crazy weather, and that defines what we do. That eventually defines the brand itself, because our stories are the most important stories that we tell, such as what we're doing today. And there's really a perfect circle here that happens, because when we get to tell you the story and you choose to support us in the marketplace, then we have the resources necessary to reinvest back into the business over there, the community, the people, and the land itself. And if we do that, it continues to give to us. It's really a very logical model. It's very basic, and it really should exist in every business, whether it's a business that produces something that is consumed or not. It's really not a complicated thing. And I hope that as we are starting to talk about this in more detail, you realize that there are ways to do every aspect of our business properly, right? And if we do that and we show that we can also thrive as a business, maybe we will inspire others to do it as well. So this is what we have for today, but I want to introduce to you the next 2 episodes. And feel free to continue to write questions if you like. If we don't get to do it on Facebook Live, we will get back to you later if we can connect one way or another. And 2 more episodes, although this trilogy probably is going to be like Douglas Adams' trilogy on the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, where I'll go through the 4th and 5th episode as we develop new content that we hear from you that you want to see. The next one is about barrel aging, as I discussed, the dynamic relationship and conflict between American woods and Brazilian woods, which are mostly endangered. And this will be actually, we'll air it at the same time in a few weeks on Wednesday, September 13th. And that happens to be Cachaça Day, actually. So it's a relevant day. And then the third episode that we have planned for now is a couple of weeks later, another Wednesday away. And it's about the people in the team, especially those in Brazil, and the lessons and the values they teach us and how we address those things in the business at the other end. We are a farmer, we are a distiller, we are an importer, we are a distributor, and we are a promoter. And all of our values come together as one. So I'd like to thank you for participating today. We look forward to talking to you guys again soon. Ciao.